Have a small group, so please pause at any time to ask us questions. We'll get to them as soon as possible. If we don't get to your questions during today's webinar or during the actual webinar itself, we'll be sure to answer any questions you have at the end of the presentation. So my name is Amber Troop, and I am the Mentor Michigan Coordinator at the Michigan Community Service Commission, and I'll be facilitating our webinar today. This webinar is part of the Research and Action series, which was designed by Mentor, the National Mentoring Partnership. And this series is designed to share the latest research with mentoring professionals and to try and provide tangible strategies that can be implemented with programs. So ultimately, this series can help programs make decisions based on current research that is ultimately linked with positive outcomes. If you're not familiar with the series, there are 10 issues, and each issue provides you with 3 different sections. First, it addresses the research, and it provides a peer-reviewed article that's written by a leading scholar in the field, which summarizes the latest research that's available on the given topic and then its implications for the mentoring field. Next comes the action section. This provides tools, activities, templates, or other resources that provide you with suggestions to put this theory into practice. And finally, it provides you with resources, and this is just simply a list of additional resources to further help you research this topic. And I will caution that in some cases, different sections are lighter in other topics. So for example, in some cases the action series is quite weak and the research section is quite heavy, so they all vary a little bit. On this next slide, you can see the 10 issues that are covered in this series. Mentor Michigan is hosting a series of webinars to share each issue with you. We've already covered all 10 webinars and are in the process of repeating them. Today's webinar will address issue number 3, which is program staff and youth mentoring programs, the qualifications, training, and retention. You can take a look at the Mentor Michigan website to find a complete list of the topics and dates that we'll be covering via webinar. Just go to our website, which is mentormichigan.org, and click on Training and Technical Assistance on the left-hand side of your screen. And on this page, you'll find a complete list of our upcoming training and technical assistance opportunities. You can also download this issue from Mentor's website. All 10 issues are available for free download, and if you haven't already done so, you may want to download issue number 3. The research section of this issue was written by Dr. Thomas Keller of Portland State University. So a brief introduction for today's webinar. First, in the research section, we'll discuss staff qualifications, staff training, and staff retention. Then in the action section, we're going to go over checklists for recruiting, training, and retaining program staff. And then finally, we'll discuss related resources that you can utilize within your program. So getting right into the research section now. In the mentoring field, professional staff members who design the program models and implement the program policies and procedures really make important contributions to establishing strong mentoring relationships and achieving the goals of intervention. So, for example, staff who recruit, screen, train, match, and ultimately monitor program participants have a strong role in supporting the mentoring relationship obviously at every stage of its development. In the process of maintaining clear communications, ensuring adherence to guidelines, and providing encouragement and advice to the matches, the staff may form their own meaningful relationships with the mentors, the youth, and ultimately the parents or guardians that are involved with the program. Ideally, as representatives of the program, these mentoring professionals would serve as excellent role models of the qualities they wish to see in their mentors, being consistent, attentive, and responsive, and providing appropriate structure and guidance to program participants. It is unknown, however, to what extent the personal characteristics or professional activities of program staff actually affect the quality of the mentoring relationships they support, because this topic has not yet been addressed through research. In fact, virtually nothing about the professional staff of mentoring programs appears in the research literature to date. So in the absence of this type of research, this absence is really unfortunate, because program staff positions in youth mentoring represent a special combination of responsibilities and challenges that are distinct from most other jobs in the human services field. I'm sure you can all attest to this, the role of, or the role that you play in wearing many hats within your program. One aspect of the role demands the interpersonal and clinical skills used in direct service to both youth and adults, such as the assessment, training, advising, negotiating, and resolving conflicts. On the other hand, because the primary focus is on the mentor, the staff person tends to assume a secondary and supportive role in facilitating the mentoring relationships and really acting as a volunteer manager. And then another unique twist to these type of positions is that the program staff also perform the functions of a case manager for the child and family by providing additional referrals and opportunities to them. So perhaps the closest parallels in the nature of the work of the mentoring field are found with child welfare workers who screen and license foster parents and place children in foster homes, and then ultimately monitor the relationships among the child foster parent and biological parent. In addition, the closest parallels in the nature of the workforce are found within the field of youth development, which tends to attract individuals interested in working with youth in a variety of community-based and after-school programs, but does not yet have a clear set of employment qualifications or a strong sense of professional identity. So given the lack of information about staffing issues in youth mentoring specifically, this issue must draw on the literature available in related fields such as child welfare and youth development. Of course, it is acknowledged that important differences exist between the conditions of youth mentoring programs and those in these other settings. However, we will find that there are some parallels. Finally, although it is recognized that various leadership and administrative responsibilities are essential for the success of mentoring organizations, this review focuses specifically on staff positions directly related to program operations. So because academic degree programs focusing specifically on preparation of students for work in youth mentoring programs are rare, if not non-existent, it seems reasonable to assume that the staff members of mentoring programs come from a range of educational and occupational backgrounds, many of which may be relevant for providing services to children and youth. In today's webinar, we'll discuss 3 sources that have studied the issue of staff qualification. One is an unscientific review of the postings for program staff positions on the Big Brothers Big Sisters of America website. 2 is a survey of more than 4,000 workers in after-school programs done by the National After School Association. And 3rd, a study done by the National Institute on Out-of-School Time of more than 4,000 children in 78 after-school programs in Massachusetts that looks at higher education attainment among program directors and staff. So, beginning with the unscientific review of the nationwide employment postings for program staff and positions through BBBSA, it indicates that a commonly stated qualification is a bachelor's degree in a human services field. A national survey that was done by the National After-School Association, once again of more than 4,000 staff members in a variety of after-school programs, paints a portrait of a fairly well-educated workforce. Of the staff employed in the after-school program surveyed, 67% had at least a 2-year degree or higher, 55% had a 4-year degree or higher, 8% had completed a special certificate or credential, and the remaining 24% had a high school diploma. The most common field of study among staff was education. Several other disciplines were also represented, including psychology, counseling, social work, administration, and liberal arts. In addition, a question on the survey about occupation immediately prior to after-school work revealed a wide range of employment experiences, and many of those were unrelated to work with children. If the field of after-school youth development serves as a good example, similar research attention should be devoted to the qualifications of staff in youth mentoring programs. On a separate study that involved 4,000 children in 78 after-school programs in Massachusetts, this found that higher educational attainment among program directors and staff, and that there was a higher percentage of staff certified as teachers, and also that higher staff wages were associated with positive indicators of program quality, such as staff-to-youth engagement, youth-to-youth engagement, challenging and engaging activities, and high-quality homework time. A diverse workforce may spur the development of additional education and training opportunities to help inform a common understanding of core principles and practices. Education and training opportunities really help programs develop employees with varying qualifications and backgrounds into qualified program staff through 2 ways. First, training for staff members to perform specific job-related tasks within the organization, and second, general training to establish a common body of knowledge within the field as a whole. So beyond simply acquiring knowledge through training opportunities, an important consideration is the ability of staff members to actually transfer what is learned in training sessions into practical application in the workplace. So some factors affecting the transfer of training may include the design of the training, training characteristics, and work environment characteristics. So there's some identified barriers to being able to transfer what is learned through training into practical knowledge, and many of these involve conditions in the work environment, and those include lack of managerial and peer support, time and workload pressures, resistance to new ideas, short-term perspectives, lack of opportunity or responsibility, performance and reward structures, and organizational politics. So in the absence of formal academic programs that could prepare future mentoring professionals, a number of short-term training opportunities and technical assistance resources have emerged at the local, regional, state, and even at the national level. So one area that we mentioned earlier in the broadcast was Mentor Michigan, and we offer a variety of training and technical assistance for program staff, including free webinars, and we also hold an annual statewide conference which convenes mentoring professionals from across the state. It's a great opportunity for training, networking, and learning from others and from national mentoring leaders that come in for the event. This year, the conference will be held in November in East Lansing, and if you go to our website, you can find the save the date information. Mentor Michigan, Mentor, the National Mentoring Center, and Public-Private Ventures all offer a wide range of training tools and technical assistance publications on their website. The websites are listed above. The National Mentoring Center at Education Northwest provides training and technical assistance for providers of youth mentoring programs and initiatives. They're a great organization and have over 20 years of experience providing training, resources, and other services to local mentoring programs at the federal, state, and regional levels. So looking at staff retention now, retaining staff is a priority in most organizations because of the negative impact staff turnover can have. There's a widespread perception of substantial staff turnover in the field of youth mentoring, but no facts and figures are available to suggest the actual scope of the problem. But it's definitely an issue that needs to be addressed, as high staff turnover in youth mentoring programs can ultimately have a negative impact on the youth that they serve. In addition, high staff turnover really has a dramatic impact on organizations, including a monetary impact due to the costs that are associated with separation, replacement, and training new staff. There's also negative consequences for the morale of remaining coworkers that are often burdened with the extra work, and it can result in disruptions in the stability and quality of the services that the mentoring program provides. Mentoring professionals are involved in maintaining the system of the relationships between the mentor, the child, and the parent in this mentoring intervention which is occurring. So staff turnover can really have adverse effects on the stability of the match. In general, human service professionals spend a large amount of time focusing on obviously really difficult and emotionally charged issues. And the intense demands of the work can cause stress, frustration, and fatigue. So particular challenges in mentoring programs may include the necessity to work evenings and weekends to accommodate the volunteers and parents, as well as the pressures and anxieties that are associated with the child safety issues which programs are ultimately responsible for. Based on 2 comprehensive reviews of research on factors associated with staff turnover in human service professions and child welfare, provide consistent evidence that feelings of overload and burnout, particularly emotional exhaustion, are ultimately linked with turnover. In addition, these reviews show that there is some agreement regarding the predictors of staff retention, and they're categorized into 3 broad areas. So first, individual factors such as previous work experience, self-perceived competency or efficiency. Next is professional perceptions such as job satisfaction, commitment to the organization, or individual job duties. And organizational factors including size of workload, support from supervisors and coworkers, higher salary, and perceptions of fair, supportive organizational climate are all critical. So taken together, these findings on turnover and retention tend to emphasize the importance of the workplace climate, which is defined in terms of the psychological impact of the work environment on that individual worker. So looking at emotional exhaustion, overload, etc. And evidence from the child welfare and juvenile justice systems show that staff experiencing more positive organizational climates not only remain in their jobs longer, but also demonstrate better attitudes towards work, deliver higher quality services, and ultimately, in the end, achieve better outcomes for children. So, among the most significant studies to date on staff retention in the human services is an evaluation of an organizational intervention that's aimed at improving availability, responsiveness, and continuity, which is ARC, of child welfare and juvenile justice workers for youth in their care. So the ARC intervention comprises a set of strategies for changing organizational culture and climate according to 5 guiding principles of effective service systems. And those are mission-driven, results-oriented, improvement-directed, relationship-centered, and participation-based. So in the context of youth mentoring, the principles of ARC intervention may translate to, first of all, motivating staff through the mission of serving youth. Second, recognizing and acknowledging what works and what doesn't. Providing opportunities for growth, development, and innovation. Fostering relationships among coworkers. And finally, encouraging worker participation in establishing the direction of the program. In this case, program managers and supervisors would serve as positive role models and supportive mentors for program staff. Caseworkers in sites receiving the ARC intervention reported less emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, role conflict, and role overload. Furthermore, there was a dramatic reduction in staff turnover. 65% of caseworkers in the control group left within the 1-year time frame of the study, whereas 39% of the intervention group left. So the success of this intervention shows how important organizational climate is for staff retention and for more positive attitudes and productive work among employees who remain. For the mentoring field, this research implies that programs are more likely to retain qualified staff when the workplace culture and climate embodies the stated values of the program, serving youth through mentoring. So, considering the many ways in which program staff may influence the experiences of mentors, youth, and parents in mentoring interventions, greater attention should be devoted to the recruitment, training, and retention of well-qualified and highly competent program professionals in the field of youth mentoring. And although research from similar fields is informative, implications drawn from these studies may not directly translate to the realities of youth mentoring programs. Research into staffing issues in youth mentoring could provide the opportunity to create tangible strategies that are specific to the youth mentoring world, and ultimately improving the quality and quantity of services that are provided to young people through mentoring. So we're getting now into the action portion of the webinar. Mentoring programs often focus their scarce resources and energy on providing direct services to youth, resulting in limited investment in program staff. In some cases, this may lead to program staff that are not qualified, are ill-trained, or leave their positions prematurely, which is disrupting the implementation and effectiveness of the mentoring program. And then ultimately this in turn could cause harm to the youth that they serve. In the action section, Dr. Keller lays out strategies to strengthen the capacity of mentoring programs to recruit, train, and retain highly qualified youth service workers for optimal program success. The issue also provides checklists of important practices that mentoring programs should utilize when recruiting, training, and retaining program staff. Look at these checklists and think about your program and how does your program measure up, and use it to look at what things you could be working on. So in terms of staff qualifications, mentoring programs should hire staff who, and here's your checklist, a strong commitment to the program's mission, strong interpersonal skills, and the ability to develop relationships with diverse community members, staff, and youth. The ability to role model behaviors for mentors, including consistency, active listening, and compassion for youth. Ideally, previous experience in youth development work, strong written and oral communication skills, a degree in a field related to mentoring, such as education, psychology, social work, and counseling, or perhaps you're looking at equivalent experience, and a solid history of continuous employment without multiple short tenures or gaps in employment, because obviously you're looking for somebody who's going to have some longevity within your organization. Next, we're looking at staff training. When conducting training, mentoring programs should offer staff members the following things. So obviously an orientation to your program and the work environment, initial training on those specific duties required for the position they were hired for, an overview of research on the effectiveness and practices of mentoring, including the elements of effective practice or Michigan's quality program standards, training on positive youth development strategies, opportunities to transfer knowledge that's gained from training into action. So obviously the training doesn't do any good if they're not able to implement it. An individual professional development plan, so there's a focus on this ongoing training. Supervisory skills, training for those who oversee mentors or staff. And a role in evaluating the effectiveness of training received. So you can see what's working and what's not. And now here's your checklist on ways to focus on staff retention. So mentoring programs should do the following things. Create a positive workplace climate that includes opportunities for managerial and peer support. Understand and address the causes of staff turnover, so don't ignore it. Figure out what's happening. Ensure that staff are recognized for high-quality work. Everybody needs a little praise now and then. Provide a framework for success, giving staff opportunities to achieve, demonstrate competence, and experience growth. Budget appropriately to compensate high-quality staff. I know this is a challenge, but ultimately this is going to be one of the ways that you retain people. And provide access to internal and external mentors or coaches for the staff so they have support. And then finally, on an organizational level, programs should incorporate human resources and organizational development practices to strengthen the hiring, training, and retention of the mentor program staff. So programs should develop the following. First, a comprehensive policy and procedures manual that details all aspects of hiring, training, and retaining staff. A thorough understanding of employment law to make sure you're not violating any policies. A job description for each position that includes the knowledge, skills, abilities, and duties that are required. Interview protocols that ask questions related to the competencies of each position. A new employee handbook should be available and updated regularly. And evaluation to understand the effectiveness of staff training and retention efforts. And programs should also conduct the following things. A job analysis to understand the roles and responsibilities of each staff position. Background and safety screening of all employees, including reference checks from at least one previous supervisor, ideally more. And organizational assessment of potential barriers that may limit staff success. Conduct an assessment of the organization's culture. Understand what it is. have an analysis of organizational structures and policies to determine if they limit the ability of staff to work effectively and efficiently. And also of great importance is those regular performance reviews for all staff, so you're identifying the strengths and weaknesses of your staff members. So now a few resources before we conclude today. You can access resources from Mentor, the National Mentoring Partnership, at mentoring.org. They have a staff development section on their website, which includes information on how to create a professional staff development plan to ensure that your staff are supported to do their jobs. So the directions are on this slide on how to access that. If you go to the Start a Program section of their website, click on Management and then Staff, you will find that guide. Next is the U.S. Department of Labor. This is obviously the federal government agency. It provides information and resources on employment and employment law for all organizations. Once again, we mentioned this earlier, the National Mentoring Center at Education Northwest provides training and technical assistance for providers of youth mentoring programs. Once again, they've been around for over 20 years and provide services to mentoring programs at the local, state, and federal level. They also recently launched the Mentoring Forums. This is a website where youth mentoring professionals from all over can share innovative program practices and then tips on the art of mentoring. This is a great place to ask questions of your peers, to disseminate perhaps the wisdom you've gained in working with the young people or the population you're serving, and then to ultimately just engage in conversations that can help shape the youth mentoring movement. Mentoring and youth development professionals, researchers, evaluators, funding agencies, and even mentors themselves are engaged in these conversations on this website. So at this time, are there any questions or comments? You will see on this slide that the PowerPoint presentation is available via slideshare.net/MentorMichigan. You can download today's presentation. Are there any questions or comments at this time? Once again, the Research in Action series, the purpose of today's webinar is to simply break down the Research in Action series in perhaps a more usable way. If there's anything that you need after reviewing today's webinar or thinking about it further, please don't hesitate to contact me. And once again, I hope you will join us on future webinars. And if you have particular topics that you're interested in, don't hesitate to share those with us as well. All right, well, if